Hey everybody! Hope you've had a fantastic week. I hope you've had as good a week as we've had here at i3D Themes. Good afternoon, happy Friday. It's Brandon Devnish from i3D Themes with this week's Interactive number 84, where we share what we're passionate about and what we've been working on in the i3D Themes Design and Code Labs. So this week, what has gone on here? So let's talk about first what's been going on in the design lab. Colin has been working again on the Oxygen WordPress theme. So it's taking a little bit longer than anticipated, but he has been making progress. We've actually had a lot of custom projects come in over the last few weeks, and of course they're taking sort of precedence and bumping the development on the WordPress theme off a little bit, but progress is still progress. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks we should have a preview of that. In the Code Lab this week, Adam took the week off, had some stuff he needed to get done. That's fine by me. It meant that I got to sort of dive ahead into one of the most anticipated squirrels, if you want to call them that. I had mentioned last week that I often feel like a dog in a park full of squirrels when it comes to web performance optimization. There's so many great ideas for what we can work on. The trouble is focusing in on one idea at a time. So we have a list I call my squirrel list. And so this week I decided to focus in on something called WebP images. Now if you don't know what a WebP image is, don't worry about it. I didn't know before, too long ago what a WebP image was. It wasn't really on my radar. We all know what a JPEG image is. We know what a PNG image is, what a GIF image is. Yes, that's GIF, not GIF, not GIF. GIF images. We all know what those image types are. Well, there's another image type that was developed by Google and is made open source called WebP. And it's awesome. It is up to 35% smaller than like JPEG images. So you'd have JPEG image 1 and then you convert it to a WebP and it can be up to 35% smaller. PNG images about 20% smaller, and it's just great. You think about this, your web page can load between 20 and 35% faster, more or less, because most of the web page is images, faster if you use WebP images. There's a caveat. What's that? It only works in certain web browsers. Guess which ones? Chrome and Opera. Well, the nice thing is Chrome is like 60% of the market share. Okay, so if you decide to go the route of making sure your web pages use WebP images, then you know that 60% of your visitors are going to be having a faster loading experience. So we decided to go and implement this. So there's readily available code out on the interwebs about how to make this happen with your server. And you got to take some code and put it into a very special control file called a .htaccess file. And it requires a little bit of configuration. It requires you have both a JPEG or PNG. You have the original image, and then you have to have another image with a .webp extension. So you have both images. Now it's not as easy as changing the HTML code in your web page to say, if you had say you had an image of me, Brandon, and it was brandon.jpg, and you wanted it to be a WebP image. Well, you couldn't just change the extension to Brandon or make the image brandon.webp. No, it has to be done on the server. The server has to detect which image to serve to the web browser. Otherwise, if you just changed it in the HTML and made it brandon.webp, if you loaded it up with a browser that didn't support WebP images like Firefox or Internet Explorer or Edge, it's not going to display the image. In some cases, if you're trying to load the image directly, like just copy and paste the image URL into your web browser address bar, it'll actually download the image rather than display the image. So not a good situation. So what you have to do is you have to let the server determine which image is going to be served to the web browser. It gets a little technical, but there are ways and tutorials online on how to do this. But we wanted to go and implement this for our Pegasaas WordPress plugin, the web performance optimization plugin that we've been working on for WordPress. So we did the first test where we were grabbing, say, brandon.jpg off of the origin server, the client server, and optimizing it. So we took it from saying being this big to shrinking down and optimizing the image. And then at the same time, we then did an instant convert over to a WebP format. So we then had 2 images. The next step was to set up the instructions in the control file, and we did that. And voila, we loaded a small image in Chrome and a larger image in Firefox. So the Firefox got the JPEG image, Chrome users were getting the WebP image, and it was fantastic. So like an image being somewhere around 100 kilobytes for JPEG was somewhere around 80 or 70 kilobytes for the same image looking identical in Chrome. So the next step was to then make it work for our CDN. Now we use a global partner called KeyCDN. They've got data centers, edge servers all over the world. And what that does is when somebody is viewing your website, and if you have Pegasus installed, it automatically works, but they will view the content from, such as your images or your CSS or your JavaScript, from close to you. So if you are in Asia, there might be a CDN server in Singapore, or in Tokyo, or in Australia. There might be a bunch of them all over the place, and so whichever one is closest to you, you get the resources served from. That means that everything loads so much faster. And so we were then going to say, all right, how do we get these WebP images and the JPEG images to be served from the CDN? Unfortunately, it's not as easy as you would like it to be. The support was not explicitly declared. Now, they had support articles on how to do it without the CDN, and it was very kind of KeyCDN to provide articles on how to make it happen, just not using their system. And then they had articles on how to serve different types of content for a compressed page compared to a non-compressed page using gzip or not gzip. And that used a very special configuration as well, but you couldn't translate that configuration to work for images. And so I contacted support and said, hey, we'd like to use this configuration to work with the image types. Say if the browser supports this type of image, we'd like to be able to pass along the information, but it doesn't seem as though your CDN system supports that. And they said, no, it doesn't. So we just recommend changing the file extension in the HTML. I'm like, what? That's not going to work because Firefox doesn't support that. There are other solutions out there, client-side solutions that do sort of a switch in the HTML code sort of when you view the web page. Unfortunately, it's a render blocking solution which actually slows down the page. So I was not prepared to go down that route. Well, I've got about 17, 18 years of web development experience, server experience, client-side experience, pretty much any problem to do with web development and this sort of thing. I can sit down for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe less, have a couple sips of coffee, and come up with a solution. This one, not so much. I think I probably spent 2.5 days staring blankly at my terminal, Googling, trying to figure out how to make this work. There had to be a solution. I mean, I went forums, posted forums, just there was nothing available. But I did stumble along a feature in the KeyCDN system called cookie-based caching. And what that means is you can pass along a cookie. You know what a cookie is. It's a little piece of information that identifies something to the web browser and stores it from, throughout your session. Well, you can pass a cookie when requesting a resource that identifies something to the KeyCDN system, and it will serve an alternate version of the image or whatever file. So I determined, well, hey, why don't we just set a cookie, if we're in the Chrome browser, that says, I want a different image. I am a different browser, please serve me a different image. And then on the KeyCDN system, it looks for that same cookie and then says, aha, I should do something different here. We're going to grab the different resource. We put the pieces together once I figured out the solution, and within about 15 minutes, had a working solution. And at that point, as of Thursday, all websites running Pegasus with users viewing their web pages in Chrome were now running 30% faster, more or less, because their images were 30% smaller. Because all those images were now being pushed through the system. And this update was only done on our API system, which means that no updates were needed to be done in the plugins themselves. And so pretty much like that, we had all of the websites using Pegasus now running an additional 30% faster, or loading additional 30% faster, which was exciting. It's not too often that we are able to make an impact of that magnitude in such, just with one feature. So pretty exciting. The update really only was about like 25 characters in length, the instruction. It was what 25 characters to put in that instruction that really made the difference. So anyways, hopefully, and I'm just finishing up an article now on Pegasaas.com to actually detail exactly what went through. So there at least is some documentation out there for other people that are using this CDN system and want to do something similar. Maybe it'll give them a hint as to how to proceed on that, because I tell you, it was a real head scratcher. So yeah, there you are. So I hope you've had a fantastic week. We sure have. We've got great plans for the week ahead. We've got a couple big features that we're going to be pushing through, hopefully done by the end of next week, and then another really super big feature that I think we're probably going to squeeze another 10, maybe 15% load time off the page load time for Pegasus, and so that's coming maybe in 2 weeks' time. So we've got some really great concepts coming there as well. But anyways, hope you have great plans for the weekend. We will talk to you again next week. All right, bye-bye.